Hi, my name is Malin, and this is my data analysis slideshow presentation on Criminal Minds Evolution. As I'm recording this, Season 2 finished up about a month ago, and I know that there is going to be a third season and possibly more seasons after that. So I'm recording about the first two seasons right now, but if you want to see the future, if you want to see my videos on the future seasons though, you can subscribe so you can watch them when I post them. Also, if you have not seen both seasons and you don't want spoilers, then watch them and come back to this video. So, like my other crime show data analysis projects, I recorded several things, including like the crimes, genders of the victims and the murderers, the locations they went to, and specific to this show, the quotes. I also have two videos on the first 15 seasons, one looking at the crimes and the cases, and one looking at the characters. I'll link those in the descriptions if you want to watch them. And if you do watch them, just know those are my first two videos, and I'm probably talking even faster in those than I am now. Not very well produced, but the data collection for these two seasons was a little different, but states were still recorded based on where the crimes occurred and not necessarily just where the BAU went. So if they went somewhere but like there wasn't a crime there, then I didn't write that down. Only on-screen deaths were recorded, but I did make a note of any additional deaths that happened prior to the BAU getting the case. And when I say on-screen death, I mean either A, we saw the victim get murdered, B, we saw like the crime scene or the dump site, or C, we see their body in the morgue. We need to see them dead or dying on screen for it to count as a murder. In relation to Season 2, mayhem for enucleation was only recorded if the victim did not die. Otherwise, only murder was recorded. I don't know if I've ever written it down, but I have like a hierarchy of crimes, and murder is always at the top. If the victim dies from a crime, it's murder and only murder. Additionally, for the original run of Criminal Minds, I recorded abduction and serial killer if the victims were kept alive for about a day or more before being killed. But for Evolution, I only did abduction if they didn't die at the end of that episode. Because this show does not have morally gray FBI agents, and we're supposed to just see them as the good guys and only the good guys, none of our main characters are included in the criminal graph. Even if they did like kill someone, it was usually just because like they're trying to save the victim, stuff like that. Also, just for clarification, if I say Season 1 and Season 2, I'm talking about Seasons 1 and 2 of Evolution. And if I say original run, I'm talking about the first 15 seasons of the show. Now, there are some data differences from the original run that I had to adjust for. So with the first 15 seasons, I less so recorded the type of crime and more so recorded the type of criminal. So instead of murder, I actually had three separate categories. I had serial killer, which was 2 or more incidents of murder, homicide, which was 1 incident of murder. It could have been a double murder, but if it was 1 incident, it was a homicide. And spree murders, which was multiple incidents in about a day or less. But Evolution has a different format. So they don't solve the case in one episode and then move on to the next one. It carries throughout the season. So Evolution's format is more similar to a season of Hannibal or Dexter, and so I use the same rules in this project as I did in those projects, with the exception of not including the FBI agents on the criminal graph because they're all supposed to be good and not morally gray. So I usually have an observation slide, but I really only had 2 observations. In the Season 2 episode Homesick, the extremely pregnant woman did not give birth, and I have never seen this happen outside of the movie Fargo. Also, in the original run, at least one episode, the episode being Scarecrow, Season 12, Episode 8, took place in Yakima, Washington, where one of Voigt's containers was. I happened to come across that while looking for an episode to watch, but I did not watch that episode. I mean, I watched it the first time, but not again. Finally, this is the first time I'm recording a video for a data analysis project for a show that's still running and has the same plot throughout the seasons. So there are a couple unanswered data questions that may be answered in the 3rd season. Who killed the first Gold Star victims in Season 2, Episode 1? I believe that was attributed to Damien. I think they said that it was him, but I don't think they necessarily had proof of that, and we never saw who killed them, like saw their face. So in my data, I attributed it to Damien as well, but that is not necessarily a 100% answered question. Also, in Season 2, Episode 10, right at the start, Jade sets off an explosion. We don't know how many people died in that explosion, or were even injured, because they didn't say how many died, but I feel like I saw an ear. They were walking through, I think I saw an ear on the ground or something. But like, people definitely died in that, right? And finally, where was Elias Voit in prison when he got stabbed? And I mean the state. I could not record a state for that crime. That's the only one that is unrecorded. And my biggest complaint about this season is, why is Rossi still in the field? He got blown up in Season 2, Episode 10. He's 70 years old, but he just got right back up. That just seems unrealistic. A 70-year-old man gets exploded and has a thing knocked on top of him. He's not getting right back up to go catch the killer. He needs to go to the hospital. Also, what happened to Jill? Those last 2 are not data questions, but like, what happened to Jill? I thought she was gonna die. I was convinced she was gonna die. Also, I want to take a second to brag because Before I started the second episode, I wrote down some predictions because after the first 15 seasons, I realized that I may not be a professional criminal profiler, but I'm really good at profiling the show Criminal Minds. So I wrote down that Gold Star is either a woman or possibly two people, and in a way, I was right. Because the first reveal is that Gold Star is two people, one of whom is a woman, and then it's revealed that it's five people, but Damien and Jade are still the main two, so I was right about that. I wrote down Elle Greenway because I thought it would be funny if she was Gold Star, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. I still think it would be funny if Reed comes back as a serial killer. And also, before the final episode, I did think Jill would die, but she wasn't even in that episode. I knew it was Prentice's turn to be a victim, and I was right about that. I was also right that Peter B was Peter Bailey, because Bailey was the only B last name that it could have been. I'm now 15 for 17 season finales of Criminal Minds accurately predicted what character is going to be the victim. So, just bragging for a second. Anyway, bragging and introduction out of the way, let's talk about the crimes and the criminals in this season. So, the crimes recorded were murder, kidnapping, meaning the victim is under 18, abduction, meaning the victim is over 18, explosion, and mayhem. And if you're unfamiliar with mayhem as a crime, the definition of it from dictionary.law.com is, quote, the criminal act of disabling, disfiguring, or cutting off or making useless one of the members, leg, arm, hand, foot, eye, of another, either intentionally or in a fight, called maiming. It's basically like an assault, but it's like all mayhems are assaults, but not all assaults are mayhems, if you get that. Anyway, only 4 episodes had no murder. Those episodes were Forget-Me-Nots, Memento Mori, Conspiracy vs. Theory, and Message in a Bottle. Additionally, Message in a Bottle had no crimes at all. Like, maybe some really minor stuff, but there were like no crimes. I recorded nothing. The illegal things that did happen that I did not record were carrying a fake and inert bomb, obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, witness intimidation, those types of crimes. All non-mayhem level assaults, such as tasing or just punching someone, breaking and entering, was not recorded. Most of the things Tyler Green does, like threatening someone with a saline syringe, were not recorded. Tyler Green is not anywhere on my criminal graph because is any of the stuff he does like actually illegal outside of just being really shady? I don't know, so I didn't record anything that he did. So this is the crime graph, and unlike the first 15 seasons of the show, I record this by occurrence, and the size of each square correlates to the number of times that crime happened. And so, obviously, murder is the biggest square. There are 36 on-screen deaths that were killed by a killer. Not on this graph is the 8 criminals who died, either by suicide or being killed by the BAU, and the 1 non-criminal who killed himself. Also, so it wasn't that 10 people were abducted. This is where it gets a little tricky, because Elias did abduct his family and Rossi over 2 episodes, and I did not record them as victims twice, but I did record the crimes twice. I don't know why I chose to do it that way, honestly, but that's how I did it. So there's a couple, I guess, double counts in here. Kidnapping, a couple kidnappings. There were 4 explosions, and none of those 4 explosions caused any deaths, otherwise it would be under murder. And there were 3 mayhems. This is the cause of death graph for the victims in Criminal Minds Evolution. It is also by occurrence, so 9 people were shot, 8 people were stabbed, and I define stabbing as any sharp object. 5 people were asphyxiated, 3 people died in explosions. I think that was just 1 explosion, but 3 people died. 2 were unknown. Those are both Cyrus's victims. We don't necessarily know how he killed them. 2 were bludgeoned, 1 was poisoned, 1 was dogged, by which I mean, when you Pavlov a dog into killing someone, obviously. And then 4 were others. I don't know why I didn't put these 2 under others. There were 4 others. The others were blood loss from biting, a cat of 9 tails whip, that was 2 deaths, as well as acid. The mayhems were enucleation, torture, shooting, and bleach to face. Actually, mayhem was on the last slide, but those are the 3 mayhems. Anyway, crime observations. So in the first 15 seasons, only Sick Day, season 12, episode 2, had 3 crimes. A lot of episodes had 2 crimes, but this is the only one with 3. It was a serial killer who kidnapped children and then later committed arson. Those are the 3 crimes. And in Evolution, What Doesn't Kill Us also had 3 crimes because Frank Scelsa committed murder, abduction, and attempted murder. Should be noted, I did not really record attempted murder in the original run because I would just put serial killer and then just not count the victims who lived. Every episode in the original run had crimes, but Message in a Bottle, Evolution Season 2, Episode 6, did not have any crimes. Some relatively minor illegal stuff may have occurred, but nothing serious. So this is a pretty different episode. I think it's actually one of the lowest rated of the whole season, and honestly, I get that because Elias Voit was not in it and no one got murdered. or mayhemed or abducted. Nothing happened. This is a graph of the criminal's on-screen victims. As you can see, there are two colors. This lighter color is the murder victim, and this darker color is the other victims. So murder victims, obviously the people who died, and other victims are the victims of any crime other than murder. So like abduction, mayhem, etc. So let's look at the more major criminals. So Benjamin Reeves, he was in 2 episodes, I think. He had 4 total murder victims. Jade Waters was the big bad of season 2. She had 8 on-screen murder victims and 2 mayhem victims. Damien only had 3 murder and 1 other. Elias had 5 on-screen murder victims and 8 other victims, but he killed a lot more people than that, and that's what the next couple slides are about. The one thing I was really interested to find was how many people did Elias kill? And is the FBI accurate on that number? So when I rewatched season 1, I was looking out for these boards. And when I was watching season 2, I was watching this room so closely, the one with the big table in it, because of this board in the back. It had all of the victims, and it was not till episode 9 that they had any shot with the entire board. Unfortunately, it was as Rebecca Wilson was walking past it, so the whole thing is blurry. I combined all of these pictures together to try and gender the victims. I was trying to see, did Elias Voit have a preference for feminine people versus masculine people? So I was more focused on the second shipping container since they never gave a final number on that. On the left here, we have 2 pictures that were taken from season 2, episode 9, and on the right, this is taken from season 1. Now in season 1, they hadn't identified all of the victims of the second shipping container yet. So it makes sense that in season 2, there are more photos. And the pink and blue no circles are when I was crossing off the matched up photos and, trying to gender the victims. But the thing I noticed is that Allison Green's photo is not over here, which is weird to me because Allison Green, being a victim of Elias, is the whole reason Tyler Green was involved to begin with and is now involved with the FBI. And if you look at, this woman's photo, you can see she's right here, still next to, still near these 2 people, but they didn't move over Allison Green's photo. And there is no one over here with a blue background, white and white shirt and a green tag. Why didn't they move her photo? They moved all of the other ones and then found 8 more. Why didn't they move Allison Green's photo? It wasn't, if you look over here, her photo is not on the top. It wasn't in the first shipping container. Anyway, as I said, I was trying to kind of gender the victims and see if he had a preference. For context, in the scenes I got some of the pictures from, they're comparing the victimology of the 2 containers. And so in the Yakima container, there were high-risk victims, and in the Whitfield container, there were low-risk victims. And so in the Yakima container, I counted 15 men and 10 women, and 2 were unknown. There were 27 total pictures. And so in this one, it does seem like he has a slight male preference. But in the Whitfield shipping container, there were 10 male, 11 female, and 2 unknown, with 23 total pictured. So it's a little more even. However, Allison Green is not up there. I don't understand that. Why? Am I forgetting something? Did they say that oh, he didn't kill her? I hope I'm not forgetting that because I think I would remember that. Now I have a timeline of Elias's total victims beginning in season 1. In the opening scene, Elias kills a man in 2005. This is counted in my data because it was on-screen murder, but he is also included in the Yakima shipping container count. In episode 1, the FBI says they have 16 victims in the container. In episode 2, it is up to 24, not including bones. In episode 3, Elias kills a man inside the second shipping container, and in episode 5, he kills a dog and Benjamin Reeves. The second container is found in episode 6, and Elias kills his uncle Cyrus. In episode 8, early in the episode, Elias tells a victim he has killed 61 people. Later in that same episode, Rossi tells Elias that he has killed 52. But the FBI only knows about the 27 in the first container, the 23 in the second, Benjamin Reeves, and Cyrus. This only adds up to 52. So Rossi is exact from what the FBI knows at this point. It's implied that Elias killed his parents, but it's also kind of unknown, and there are still 9 extra victims, so even if we include his parents, there's still 7 extra victims. In season 2, episode 3, Elias does not appear. In season 2, episode 6, Rossi tells Elias that he has killed 60. It's possible he was rounding, but Elias corrects him and says 62, which is accurate due to the prior 61 and Bailey, though 9 of those victims still remain unknown, and now apparently the FBI knows about those victims. In season 2, episode 8, Elias does not appear, and in season 2, episode 10, Elias throws bleach in a man's face and then stabbed. This was the cliffhanger. Don't really know how this is going to turn out yet. Okay, I thought of something that might have explained the 9 victims. I thought maybe they're including the criminals who killed themselves at Elias's instruction, but there were only 6 that did so on screen. And so unless there are three other criminals who killed themselves at Elias's instruction that we don't know about, I still don't see how this adds up. But then, of course, Elias Voit had a criminal network. So these are the criminals involved in Sicarius' criminal network with all of their respective crimes. If there's an asterisk next to the crime, that means it is off-screen and not included in my data. So Rory Gilchrist killed a family of 4 in Virginia, stabbed 2 parents in Maryland, and kidnapped a teenage girl. Robert Harris killed a man off screen by spinal cord injuries, and killed a man in Maryland by spinal cord injuries, and then abducted a woman in DC. Sam Pollard, he starts out an episode by killing himself. We do not know what he did. We do not know how many he killed. Benjamin Reeves killed 3 women by asphyxiation and 1 woman by biting. Cyrus LeBrun killed 2 women in flashback by an unknown method, and possibly killed 3 others. Arthur Keel abducted 1 woman who was originally abducted by Elias, and Elias Voit has 62 victims according to him, but 52 according to the FBI. He has only 5 on-screen murder victims scattered throughout the season. He exploded Alves and JJ. He abducted a woman to give her to Arthur Keel. He abducted his family and Rossi over 2 episodes and threw bleach in a man's face in prison. The Gold Star Criminals is almost another criminal, I won't say network, but like cohort. I don't know if that's a word. But Damian Booth, I believe it was mentioned that he killed the 3 people in the episode Gold Star. He also wired a bomb to the guy that he abducted. Jade Waters killed 2 police officers, bludgeoned a man, shot and killed Damien, exploded 3 men, killing them, enucleated a man but let him live, killed Church, and abducted Prentice. Damien and Jade killed 11 on the East Coast together. That is not included in my data because it was off screen. I also don't know the genders of those they killed, but it is said that they killed 11 people on the East Coast. Dana Howe also mayhemed the guy Jack enucleated by shooting him without the intent to kill him. I call that torture shooting. Aiden Keller killed a man and a woman and abducted a woman, and Peter Bailey assisted in the abduction of Prentice. And then there were only 4 killers with no affiliations. That was Frank Scelsa, who killed a man, killed another man, abducted a woman, and attempted to kill a woman. Kai Veneer, who killed 3 people off screen, then killed 2 women and attacked a couple. And Roger Song, who acided 2 men and killed a man. And Frank Church, who is kind of related to Gold Star, shot and killed Dana. Alright, this slide is all the criminals who died and how they died. So Rory Gilchrist, Robert Harris, Sam Pollard were all killed by suicide. Gail Bruno died when he was shot by Lewis. Benjamin Reeves was shot by Elias. Cyrus was drugged by Elias. Arthur Keel was shot and killed by Rossi. The guy in Gold Star, whose name I did not write down, was shot by Rossi. Damian Booth was shot by Jade. And Dana Howe was shot by Frank Church. And the remaining 10 criminals were arrested, including Sebastian Gasper, who did not commit any on-screen crimes, but was still arrested for shady stuff. This is a pie chart of the gender of the criminals, and the first and only so far criminals who are women appeared in season 2, with one having a larger role, that one being Jay and the other being Dana. So female makes up 12.5% and male is 87.5%, and this is fairly close to the original run with slightly fewer women, but it also has a smaller total size, so it kind of makes sense that it's a little different. This is a pie chart of the gender of the murder victims. And interestingly, every show I've done so far has had a roughly 2/3 and 1/3 split between the gender of the murder victims. The split varies, some are majority female, others are majority male, but these seasons just continue the trend with a perfect 2/3 and 1/3 split between male and female. And I did not record the genders for the original run of Criminal Minds. It was my first data project. It was my first crime show data project. I didn't really think to do that. But I feel like it would have been the other way around, maybe, with slightly more female. I don't know, though. I think it would have been a little harder to do that with the way that those seasons are formatted. Now we're on to the last victim. This is something I recorded in the original run because oftentimes you see a movie with the, like, FBI or police characters and a serial killer, and there's someone that they abduct to kill or try to kill, and that, the FBI, police, they always get there at like the last possible moment to save the victim. And so that's why I made this flowchart to show how I decided if the last victim lived or not. And I'm not going to read this whole thing, but there were basically 3 options: yes, no, and NA. NA stands for not applicable, and it just means that it was a cliffhanger. But I only put that if like it ends with like a main character getting abducted. I only recorded NA if the person abducting that character is the main killer from that episode, not just like some random dude. In these seasons, only 10 episodes did the last victim live, in 5 they didn't, and 4 were cliffhangers. Also, as I said, NA is only if the people are is only if the criminal is like the main killer of that episode. So the season 2 finale is yes, because Prentice lived. It does not have anything to do with Elias getting stabbed in prison. Okay, so this is a slide from my first Criminal Minds slideshow about the last victim. As you can see, they had an 83% success rate. with only 14% of last victims dying and 3% being NA cliffhangers. These are the NAs, they're just all the cliffhangers with the main characters, except for that one. Okay, so I can't exactly read this number, so I'm pretty sure it says 268. But in 268 episodes, the last victim lived, in 46 they don't, and in 9 it was a cliffhanger. Okay, anyway, back to evolution. The NAs and NOs are in Moose, Elias makes the dog kill a man at the end of the episode. In Oedipus Rex, JJ and Luke explode and their fates are unknown. In True Conviction, Elias kills Cyrus. In Memento Mori, Rossi is thrown into the shipping container and the episode ends. In Gold Star, the man was dying when they got there and then died. In Kingdom of the Blind, Jade killed a guy. In Message in a Bottle, there are no victims and there are no crimes, no victims, and therefore no last victim. In North Star, Jade killed Damien, and in Stars and Stripes, Jade set off a bomb. So these are ratings and comparisons. This is just a rating graph of the 2 current seasons we have. The ratings all fall in the range of 7.1 to 8.3. The highest rated episode is Oedipus Rex, and the lowest rated episode is Message in a Bottle, which is the episode that Elias does not appear in and has no crimes at all. So it is understandable why that one is so low down here. But overall, the ratings are actually pretty consistent and fall within like a pretty average range of the first 15 seasons. So here's the comparison to the original run. I have each season listed over here with their average rating and the standard deviation. I should note the ratings for the last 2 seasons were taken about 3 weeks after the season 17 finished airing, and the first 15 seasons were taken from August to December of 2021. And I did not like retake the ratings. I did write them down. So anyway, the average for seasons 1 through 15 is 7.68 out of 10 with a standard deviation of 0.46. The lowest rated episode is 5.9 Awake, and the highest rated is 9.2 Entropy. And season 16 and 17 have an average of 7.75 with a standard deviation of 0.3, a minimum of 7.1, and a maximum of 8.3. So you can see the average here is actually slightly higher than the first 15 seasons. But then again, it's fewer episodes. When you have a show on for 15 seasons, it's bound to decline in quality at the end. We're on to quotes now. So overall, this season only had 2 closing quotes. Elias in Just Getting Started, which is season 1, episode 1, and kind of Luke in Dead End, season 1, episode 10. He said it like in the context of the episode and not in voiceover. However, they did do that a couple times in the original run, and I just recorded, it's pretty obvious when they're doing the quote. I just recorded whoever said it. However, for the opening quotes, Rossi had 6, Elias had 4, Prentice had 4, Lewis had 1, JJ had 1, and Bailey had 1. And the quoting percentage, so I took the number that the character said, opening and closing, out of 40 possible quotes they could have done. That's not actually how many there were, that's just possible. And so Rossi had 15% of them. All right, I jumped back to my original slideshow again for the original run, and these are the quoting percentages. I didn't actually label these because I assigned everyone a color when I did this. My original slideshow is extremely colorful, like too colorful, but when I did this does not add up to 100 because I was taking the number of quotes they did out of the total number of episodes they were in times 2 because there are 2 possible quotes in an episode. So that's why it doesn't add up to 100. Prentice quoted 15.2% of her opportunities. JJ quoted 8.3%. Rossi was 17.2%, so still fairly high, not as high as Gideon, but Gideon was much more of a main character when he was there. Garcia was 3.7%, and Alves was 5.8%. Oh, and Lewis was 8.8%. So a couple observations. In the original run, 4 episodes had no quotes whatsoever, and that was Doubt, Derek, 27, and In the End. In Evolution, only 2 episodes in season 2 had no quotes, and that was Conspiracy vs. Theory and Save the Children. I totally forgot how long this slideshow was. You have another section, and that's states. So this nice little graph is where all of the crimes in the seasons were committed. And this one, unlike the other graphs, is not by occurrence, it's by episode. So there were like 5 episodes with crimes in Washington. It wasn't 5 crimes in Washington. Anyway, 3 episodes had crimes in 2 states, and every episode had scenes in Virginia, though a crime was only committed there 3 times. I made this slideshow after season 1 came out, then I rewatched season 1, re-recorded all my data, and then season 2 came out, and I forgot to update some parts of it. Virginia had 3 times. And over 324 episodes in the original run, all but Hawaii and North Dakota were visited by the BAU, with the most common states being Virginia, where Quantico is, and California, when the show was filmed. And if you look over here, all the states that have more than one are just California, where the show was filmed, Washington, where Elias lives, Maryland, DC, Virginia, and West Virginia, which is all in that sort of area where the show takes place. And this is the map of the original run. We have, California's pretty big, so is Virginia, and DC had 26, with a couple in people's the characters like home states. All right, I have a couple of character updates. So if you want to hear more about the characters and the plots about them, how, number of times they were victimized, I have a whole like 20-minute video about that linked in the description if you want to watch it. So during the first season of Evolution, I tried to mark when an episode featured heavily a plot about a character, but I did not do that so much in the second season because even though I had just finished doing that for season one like 2 weeks earlier, I kind of forgot about it. And so I know Tara and Rebecca had some stuff, and JJ had like the porn thing going on, but that's really the extent of the personal plots in the second season. At the end of the season, in Memento Mori and Dead End, we see flashbacks of Rossi in 2022, Lewis in 2022, Tyler Green in 2006, Elias in 2012, Garcia and Alves in 2020, and Rossi and Crystal in 2020. Okay, so over all 17 seasons, for all the characters, these are the number of plots and victimizations they have. Victimizations are included as a plot, so don't add them up because the first number includes the second number. If there's an asterisk, that means that they did have plots in Evolution, but it couldn't necessarily be tied down to just one episode, stuff like that. So first of all, things to notice, no one will ever beat Reed in terms of having the most plots and the most victimizations. Prentice went up 1 in terms of victimizations. Rossi went up like 2. Yeah, not much to point out here. Oh, JJ's victim went up 1. Anyway, who wins? No one beats Reed. No one will ever beat Reed. However, out of the characters present in season 16, JJ is still in the lead for most episodes about her, very closely followed by Rossi, and as for second most victimized, JJ and Prentice are now tied with Hotch. They all have 5. The one thing I really wish I had recorded during the original run was like how many killers each BAU member killed, and I tried to look it up and I found this thing on Archive of Our Own, but it only went through like season 10, like it's pretty old. But in Evolution, I can tell you that Rossi killed 2 and Lewis killed 1. And that is all I can tell you about that. If I had to guess in the original run, I would say it was probably Hotch who killed the most. Okay, this is actually the final section. This is other comparisons to the original and corrections. I did find some mistakes because I was trying to make like an interactive graph thing where you could like click on a map and sort. I had like the map of the United States. You could click on it and tell you all the episodes that take place in that state. And I went through and I wrote down the synopsis for every single episode, and I found a mistake. Aftermath was recorded as Oregon when it is in fact Ohio. I don't know how that happened. I had to go, it said Ohio on IMDb. And so I went back to the episodes, and within the first couple of minutes, they said it was Ohio, so I don't know how I wrote Oregon. Anyway, there are actually 6 episodes from Oregon and only 5 from Ohio. I also went back and reformatted my Excel sheet. Well, I didn't reformat, I just like copy pasted it and adjusted the male and female criminals so that they're in separate columns instead of one. I did the criminal gender in like the worst way possible, but I immediately learned my lesson from that. But after I put them in separate columns, I removed any repeat offenders to get a more accurate count of the number of criminals. It's possible there are still some inaccuracies, but I now believe that there are 362 male and 67 female criminals, which percentages out to 84.4% male and 15.6% female, which is pretty close to the original calculation I had of 84.1% male and 15.9% female. And so the biggest problem was that Kat Adams was like the only repeat female killer, and there are a lot of repeat male killers. Unsub quotes. So, season 1 to 15, only 2 episodes had unsubs do a quote. My original Criminal Minds Excel sheet's being weird, and I can't open it, which is why I have not been working on the interactive graph thing. So I can't see the exact episode, but somewhere right around episode 130, Ian Doyle does a quote. However, he was not that episode's unsub, so he doesn't really count. Family Tree also had open and close quotes said by the unsub, who I believe was Lynch. And in Evolution, Elias had a much larger role than most unsubs and appears in every episode, so he does several quotes. Also, in my first slideshow, I had a slide about lesbians because I noticed that while there were several homosexual male characters, there were no women in homosexual relationships. So I started keeping track every time I saw them. And originally I thought the first one wasn't a good husband when they're just background lesbians. Like, I think it's like they're in like a LGBT community like area, and then there's like a male gay couple, and then behind them there's 2 women. And I think it's supposed to be implied that they're lesbians. Anyway, I was rewatching some episodes and I found in season 8, episode 10, the lesson the ME, who is a woman, mentions having a girlfriend, but the girlfriend's not seen, so it's not necessarily still like an on-screen homosexual relationship. So my point still stands. There are no lesbians till season 12. Additionally, in Sicarius, season 16, episode 2, Lewis gets a girlfriend, and she could be like bi or pan, but the point is two women are in a relationship. And the other updated slide I had is Weird Eye stuff, because I do not like Weird Eye stuff, and I needed to write this down so I know which episodes to avoid. That's also why I'm recording this right now, so I don't have to watch season 2 again. Not because it was bad, but because I don't want to see the eye stuff. It's like the whole season. There were 6 episodes in the original run, and in Evolution, the episodes are Gold Star, Contagion, Kingdom of the Blind, and Stars and Stripes. The last 2 are tied for us because they showed it from the victim's perspective. I don't know why they had to show it from the victim's perspective. That was horrible. And then this is something that I thought of randomly at work one day. So I was like, when in the season do they get hurt? I took data from my first project, and I took all of the episodes where a character or their loved one is a victim. And so here on the left, we have a table of the most victimized, and on the right, we have the frequency of the episode where they are victimized. So the most victimized seasons are season 9 and season 12. However, both those seasons have 2-parters where both parts were included. So really, there is no outstanding season for most victimized, but if you want to say it's 9 and 12, then it's 9 and 12. It's a frequency graph of when in the season, like what episode number they get hurt. So it's usually the first episode or the last episode usually being a 2-parter. Episode 9 right here is weirdly high, and I know at least one of those is just from season 15 because there are only 10 episodes, but I don't know, I thought that was interesting. As I said on my rating slide, I did not retake the ratings for all the episodes, but I did write them down anyway, because I wanted to look at the differences. The first time, the ratings were taken between August and December of 2021, so I retook them now in July of 2024. And so the 3 lowest rated episodes, which are actually the first 2 episodes without Reed, are no longer the lowest rated. Those episodes were Awake, Internal Affairs, and Future Perfect, and the old 3 highest rated episodes are different too. Entropy went from 9.2 to 9.1, Revelations went from 9.0 to 8.9, and Mosley Lane went from 9.0 to 8.9. And so, overall, 75 episodes had ratings that remained unchanged. 23 increased by 0.1, and 104 episodes decreased by 0.1. And only 65 episodes increased at all. So, for the most part, the ratings went slightly down. And almost all of the episodes with Garcia plots increased. And most of the episodes with Reed decreased, with only 1 staying and 2 increasing. So, these are the episodes with the biggest positive and negative changes. Awake, Internal Affairs, 100, which is actually now the highest rated episode at 9.2. The Black Queen, that's a Garcia episode. Demons, that's a Reed episode. Nelson Sparrow, that's a Gideon episode. And Future Perfect. And the episodes with the biggest negative changes are Honor Among Thieves, Corazon, that's a Reed episode. With Friends Like These, A Better Place, The Bunker, The Capellanos, A Good Husband, and Bad Moon on the Rise, which I believe is a Luke Alves episode. And the mentions of Agents Past. And so I didn't write all of them down in the original series, but I recently rewatched season 11, episode 22, and Elle is briefly mentioned in passing. But they don't usually talk about the agents that have left unless they've just left and they're explaining their sudden disappearance by saying they went into witness protection. Anyway, in Evolution season 2, episode 2, Contagion, they mentioned Hotch. And in Message in a Bottle, they mentioned Gideon, Morgan, and Hotch. And in Piranha, they mentioned Hotch, Morgan, and Reed. And we've finally reached the end of this long slideshow. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too much of a mess. If you want to see the other 2 videos I have on the original run of Criminal Minds, I'll link them in the description. And if you want to see the future video of season 3 of Criminal Minds Evolution, or any other seasons of this show that may come in the future, make sure to subscribe so you can get a notification about it. And thanks for watching.